Welcome to another episode of Breaking the 20%. I am Elena, CTO of Cocoon Creation, software engineer and geek. And with me, I have Maria Stylianou. Welcome, Maria.
Hello. Thank you for having me here.
So I have a surprise for you all. Maria will be here in all the episodes. Yay! Because we like Maria.
And I like the episode, so...
yes, of course. So basically, we did 2 episodes together. We did the very first one. Actually, the very first one recording. It wasn't the first one in the order, but it was the very first recording. And we did the Barbie one.
Yes.
So, yeah. And they are favorite episodes of the listeners. So...
were they?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Very
such a
popular.
validation for me. Thank you.
So before we go into the story, I said you're Maria, but who is Maria?
That's a good question.
So do you want to tell us a bit about you for the listeners?
Who am I? I love doing experiments. I'm going to start from there. At the moment, we are building a startup with my 2 co-founders. It's called Sequela. And in parallel, I'm also consulting in tech organizations. I'm an HRDA trainer. So I do trainings and coaching in tech organizations to help them become more productive and more efficient in their ways of working. These are the 2 main things. And then I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. I'm co-organizer of Google Developers Group Cyprus. We're organizing meetups for developers. And other than that, I'm running. Into calisthenics. I done swing.
You are a cat mother recently?
Yeah, for the past 7 days, I'm a cat mother. So this is new. It's a new identity, which I'm trying to learn. If you have any advice on what I should do with my life and my cat, please do tell me.
The cat so far seems to be having the time of her life.
Definitely, yeah. She's like a Tarzan in the house.
That's good.
But I'm going to train her.
Or maybe she will train you.
Yeah, that's what everybody tell me. Everybody tells me, okay, the house now belongs to the cat and you are her servant. And I'm like, no.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, thank you for coming to be my co-host. And I think I have a good story to start this with.
All right.
So...
and by the way, I know very little about the story. I just heard what the topic is, but I haven't Googled it. So I'm here for it. I'm here.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So, as I told you, today we're talking about Sandy Lerner. So, Sandy Lerner was born in 1955. The exact date is unknown, although ChatGPT gave me a date, and I'm not sure if it's like, because I couldn't find a date anywhere.
Why is it not a common knowledge?
I don't know. But ChatGPT had a date, but I was like, do I trust it? Probably not. So she was born in 1955.
All right.
Somewhere in that year, somewhere in California.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was 4 years old, her parents split, and she was sent off to live with one of her aunts in Beverly Hills.
Okay.
And the aunt was rich, single, and she spoiled little Sandy.
The perfect match.
Yes, the thing is that there was one more aunt that was rich. And so when she was 6 years old, the other aunt bribed Sandy with a pony to go live with her in the Sierra Mountains at a ranch with cattle.
Lol, it just took a pony.
Yes.
But hang on, do you mean a doll pony or an actual pony?
An actual pony.
An actual pony.
Yes.
I would go and live with her.
Yes.
I would love to have a pony.
The Beverly Hills aunt told her, if you stay when you are 16, I will buy you a car. But, she was sick, so she
didn't care about the car.
Yeah, she went with the pony.
I mean, that makes sense because even humans, we're looking at the short-term reward and the long-term reward. And we do tend to select the short-term reward.
Of course.
Can I have a pony now or a car 15 years later?
10 years later.
Absolutely a pony.
Yeah, sure. So, yes, that was her life as a child.
All right.
And there is this story that you can find on the internet, which is one of the stories that you read and you say, did it happen? Probably not. But it's one of those founder's myth. So as the story goes, when she was 9 years old, she bought a bull.
Oh, yeah, after the pony,
Yeah.
what else do you
She
need?
raised it and sold it 2 years later at a price that enabled her to buy 2 more
In what age did she buy the bull?
when she was 9.
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't believe it either.
Oh, wow.
But that's the story.
That's such a baller move, actually. A 9-year-old buying a bull, selling it 2 years later,
And buying 2 more.
makes her money back. Oh, such an entrepreneur already. Whoa.
So by the age of 18, she owned a pasture with 13 bulls, and that's how she paid for her studies.
The rich aunt didn't give her anything else.
I guess the first bull, I don't know.
It was just a pony.
I don't know.
Oh, all right.
So I
want
know.
it to be true. I believe it.
Okay, let's go that it's true. There is another story that this one I believe, and I'm sure it's true. So when she was 15 years old, she experienced for the first time sexing. She went to work as a teller at a bank, a local bank at the village that it was near her. And the bank manager will make the women kneel to check the length of their skirts and will also call them all Louise because he didn't want to bother to learn their names.
Oh, wow. What a horrible person.
This, I believe, that is a true story.
Yeah. Imagine like losing your full identity, not having a name, Louise, checking her skirt. Okay.
I mean,
in which decade was this?
the 70s. No, I
Damn.
guess this was 60s maybe. Yeah, and late 60s, early 70s.
Damn.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, the skirt, maybe it was the time, but calling them all Louise?
Yeah, I don't think that was the norm back then.
No.
It was him, like
Yeah,
that
it was him.
person.
So a few years later, she went to Chico State University in California to study international relations, and her focus was on comparative communist theory and Marxist economics.
Okay.
That's
A
interesting.
philosopher, yeah. All right.
And it was the Cold War, so I find it very interesting that she chose Marxism in the US.
So her first stimuli was more from a philosophical point of view. I am waiting for where does the tech come in?
It's coming. But she managed to get her degree in 2 years.
2 years?
Yes. And then she went to study for a master's degree in econometrics at the Claremont Graduate School. And it was 1975. And during her first semester at Claremont, she gets a job as an advisor in the computer room.
All right.
And the job pays $25 an hour, which it's a lot of money.
For that time.
Even for today, it's a good salary, even for today.
Yeah.
And Sandy discovers that programming comes easy to her.
Okay, so that was her first experience. Wow.
So basically, she gets the jobs and it's a programming job and she realizes, I'm good at this.
I mean, that makes it even more believable that she bought a bull and then she sold it. Like, she can think and put things in order and like problem solve something that she wanted to achieve. Like, I can see that. I believe it even more now, the story with the bull.
Okay. So she finishes her master's degree and she decides, I want to be an academic. So she applies to Stanford and she gets into the statistics and computer science department in 1977.
Okay.
And at Stanford, she continues to work as a programmer.
All right.
And she was working on a time-sharing system, and her work was to get raw data and create the programs that will help her extract statistics from those data.
Okay. Actually, can I say something here? How beautiful is it that she studied one thing and then she discovered that she likes something else and she switches and goes into the field that she likes?
Yeah, she starts with philosophy or theoretical economics. She goes into something more practical, econometrics, and then she goes into computer science.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. And I think it's something that I see it more and more nowadays, especially when I was living in the UK. I saw that everywhere. But in Cyprus, I think it's happening more now. but I still meet people who are in jobs that they don't like. So this is such an excellent reminder that we can do it.
So she goes into computer science, and she's also working as a programmer. As she tells the story, she had to work really hard to learn how to do this, because when she was in high school, girls didn't get advanced calculus or physics, and she had to teach herself those things as well as programming.
Wow.
And it was hard, but she loved the job because A, the pay was good, and two, she says that, nobody cared which time I went and go, as long as the job was done. So she was giving her freedom that she was working as a programmer.
Oh, that's amazing.
And although she was the only graduate level woman in the group of, geeks/engineers, she never felt that she didn't belong to the group because she was as skilled as they were.
That's beautiful. Okay.
So this is a common thing that if you hear stories from women in the 70s that were engineers, they say, I was the only one, but I felt that I belong. And I think that's it. It's encouraging, and it's also kind of sad because it means that unless you are really, really good, you couldn't fit in.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking this is more or less how I initially experienced it in high school when I had computer science, because I loved it. I was among the top 5 in my class, and we were always competing with each other. So I've never felt any sexism there. It's later at university, the top 5, let's say. Well, I was in the top 5 at university, so there was already a separation of who are the top in the class. But again, I don't think it was gender oriented. It was just those 5 people. I've never seen it in a different way. But then I only felt the sexism and the discrimination afterwards, and when it wasn't related to my competency.
Yeah,
which
makes happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was part of this group of engineers, and she was the only woman. But she was okay. She belonged.
Yeah.
Len Bozak was born in Pennsylvania in 1952.
So we changed our story. We heard everything about...
No, we will get back to her, but we need to talk about Len, because Len is part of the story. He graduated from Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in 1973 and went on to work for AT&T Bell Labs and for DEC.
Okay.
And in 1979, he was accepted into Stanford University and began to study computer science. This is the same course that Sandy is in.
Okay, the same year.
Yes, the same year.
Okay.
So they are together at the university.
Oh, I see a love story coming out.
And he was tall, he had blonde hair, he had blue eyes.
So that's the dream, right?
He was good looking. So according to Sandy, she was part of this group of nerds that were overweight, ate food with their hands, and they had questionable hygiene. And then there was Len that was sitting among the group, clean, clothes iron, eating with a fork and a knife.
And this is our reminder to wash our hands before we eat and to be appropriate and respectful when we are eating in front of others. That's the way you can find a date. Yeah? Okay.
Yes. So among this group of, geeks that were kind of not behaving very well, he stand out. And the group would argue about the topic, and eventually when they couldn't figure out the answer, they would ask Len, and Len always had the answer.
Okay.
So he was a natural leader for the group.
So not only he was clean and blonde with blue eyes, he was also smart.
Yes, he was very smart.
Such a combo.
So Sandy fell in love, of course.
Oh.
And they became a couple because who gets the girl?
Who gets the girl? That guy.
That guy, of course. The one that, knows how to behave.
Love is in the air.
So they get together and they got married in 1980. Mm-hmm. And they both graduated in 1981 from Stanford with a master's in computer science.
Okay.
Len became the director of computer facilities for the University Department of Computer Science, and Sandy became the director of computing facilities for the Stanford Graduate School of Business.
All right.
So they got similar jobs in different departments.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, computers couldn't really talk to each other unless they were of the same brand. So if you had IBM computers, they could network with each other. If you had the computers, they could, network with each other. But in general, different kind of computers, different brands, they couldn't really communicate. And these are not personal computers. We're talking about, massive, big computers.
Yeah, okay.
Time-sharing computers. And of course, there was the military-funded ARPANET that eventually became the internet. But connecting a computer to ARPANET was really costly.
Mm-hmm.
You could get money from the government and connect, but it was this very big thing. It wasn't like, you can just connect your computer to it. But Stanford University had at the time 5,000 computers, and they wanted to build a network for those computers.
Okay.
So 5,000 computers back then, and it's not,
That's a
laptops. It's a lot of computers, yes.
Especially it was those big ass computers that take not only they take space and depth as well.
Yeah,
like they take the whole table.
At the time, a normal computer will be the size of a refrigerator.
Damn. Wow.
Yes. But
That's
Stanford was, ahead of its time, because I think 5,000 computers, it's like, wow. So what happens is that basically there are some stories that they were trying to give to each other's documents and they couldn't. And so they got this idea, we need to connect the computers. But I think it's just stories, to make the story sound better. But whatever was the case, in 1981, using the money from ARPA, so they got funding from the government, Sandy Lerner and a group of engineers started to develop the protocol that will allow to network all those computers.
Okay.
And eventually they linked the university's 5,000 computers across a 16 square mile campus area, overcoming incompatibility challenges to create the first true LAN system, local area network.
All right.
And they invented a revolutionary device known as the multiprotocol router.
Okay. So that's when the LAN parties began.
A bit after that, I guess. So this router could connect multiple computer networks that use different communication protocols, enabling them to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time that you can network all these computers that are different and they are not of the same brand and they don't use the same languages.
Imagine being in that time. Imagine being part of that team. Oh, internet is not the. Is it there?
There is ARPANET, but ARPANET, it's, you have to be either in the military or work for a regional organization. Any specific computers that are connected to it.
Yeah, now we take it for granted that we can have lots of computers being connected. But imagine being in that period of time that they are not connected and you're trying to figure out how to connect them. It's such, I'm jealous. In a way, imagine being in that team that they're discovering how to do this for the first time.
Yeah, so they built this router, the very first router. And they knew that they had created something valuable and they felt that this technology should become available to others.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they invented was in the public domain because they used the ARPA money. So it was government money. So whatever they created, it was public domain. Anybody could use it. And they didn't think this as a business yet. They just wanted the university to allow them to build the routers and sell them or even give them to other universities.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to the university, they asked permission, and Stanford would say, no, you cannot do this. You cannot build this thing and sell them. And you don't have permission to do this.
Okay. So even ARPANET, you said it's called?
No.
ARPANET was letting them do it?
ARPANET gave them the money to do the research. And they did it and they connected the university. So now they had the knowledge. Mm. And they said, okay, this is valuable. We want to give this to, other universities. Yeah. And they went to the university to ask permission. The university was, no, you cannot. You cannot do this.
How can you? I guess they want to protect their name. Like we are the university that has this ability to connect computers and keep it with them. But okay,
I mean, for whatever reason, Stanford was like, yeah, we don't want to get into this business.
all right. So glad for open source right now.
But it was open, actually. The technology was open. It was in the public domain.
So it was just the knowledge. It's understanding how to connect the dots.
It's understanding the technology. And then you have to actually build the hardware. Yeah, because it's hardware, the routers, and know how to connect all this and implement this thing. So Len and Sandy, they had good jobs and they didn't want to leave the university, but eventually they were so frustrated that Len suggested they should just build and sell the routers themselves. The first one to leave Stanford was Sandy. Sandy was beginning to feel that she wasn't treated right. She was getting half the money that her predecessor was getting. And when she left, her successor got 3 times her salary.
Oh, man. I'm not surprised. I'm sad. It's the same story again and again and again.
Yeah, it was the 80s. And we're here, 2024, and it's still,
it's not that long ago.
It's 44 years. And still we're...
It still happens.
Yeah, it still happens a lot. Yeah. So, yes. And at the beginning of the academic year, the faculty would meet to plan the curriculum. And although Sandy will be responsible to implement the necessary computers facilities for it, the men wouldn't invite her to the meeting because they didn't allow women at it. Instead, they would send her to have a lunch with the wives.
Damn. And the wives were also doing the same job? Or?
No, just the men that work for the universities, they met. And although she worked for the university, they sent her off with the wives, like, I don't know what.
Yeah. So that's interesting because that means that they first see her as a woman and then they see her as a professional, as their colleague. And it's so sad that, no, we're colleagues. We're going to hang out together. Our partners can hang out with themselves. I mean, if that was the separation.
And imagine her husband had the same job or a similar job, and they were doing pretty much the same thing, and he was respected and she wasn't respected.
Yeah. I'm not surprised for the time. I hope it doesn't happen now. But
yeah. So she decides to leave the university, and a while later, Len also quits his job at Stanford.
Okay.
And it costed $5 to register a business in California at the time, but there was a different issue. Every name they tried to get that contained the word computer, because they decided we'll build a business and we'll build the routers and sell them ourselves. So they needed to register a business. And they tried to register a company that had the name computer in it. But every name they were trying, it was already taken. And Sandy tried 35 different names with no luck.
Okay.
And eventually, she has this idea. She would name the company Cisco, as in San Francisco.
I'm Cisco, San Francisco.
Yes, she took the last 2 syllables from San Francisco and she named it Cisco. And that's why Cisco, even today, is spelled with a lower C.
All right, because it's supposed to have the San Fran.
The San Fran is not there. And a router is a gateway. So based on that, she designed a logo that symbolized the Golden Gate Bridge.
So smart.
And the iconic lines of the bridge have since become synonymous with Cisco. And even today, Cisco uses a much simplified version of the logo. This is the logo, as it, through the years.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. I mean, even today, the lines, you think it's somehow networking, but it's the bridge.
It's the bridge. This is such a developer thing to do, I think. We're like, how can I associate the name with what I'm doing? How can I associate the logo? Whereas nowadays in not techie companies, they're just thinking of a logo. It's a more flowy. I don't know. I feel like
But this was very literally.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
took the Cisco and the bridge and she created, and the router is also a bridge, if you think about it. A bridge for the computers to,
Exactly.
to communicate.
It's a perfect name.
Yeah. So the first Cisco router, the AGS Advanced Gateway Server, was built using a modified version of Stanford's technology. The company initially operated out of their home and was self-funded.
Mm-hmm.
They used credit cards and borrowed money from their parents and mortgaged their home to finance the company. And they started building the routers in their living rooms.
Okay.
Living room, soldering irons and all. Literally, they were sitting in their living rooms. They had like a few people. They even got free labor from their parents and their neighbors. And they were sitting there, soldering irons, and they were building routers to sell out.
I mean, it's the equivalent of having a puzzle on your living room and you're building it, or a Lego. It's a but for more techie people.
I mean, I'm not the soldering iron kind of, engineer.
Soldering iron, oh my God, in your living room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You are not either an electrical engineer, so I don't know if you have much experience with this kind of stuff.
No, I don't. I'm just trying to find the equivalent thing that we simple humans would do. Lego or puzzle, but not building routers.
Yeah. Their first customer was Hewlett-Packard, and the second was Rutgers University, and the third was Boeing. Boeing, the company,
Boeing.
the airplanes company.
Okay, whoa.
Yes. So there was real demand for the product. But the demand was a problem in this case because they had no capital and they had to buy parts on credit and they had no factory, so they couldn't produce enough routers fast enough. And once they managed to produce and send out the routers, they had to wait 90 days for the invoices to be paid.
Okay, so before we find the next client, we have to take a 90-day holiday.
No, but
A holiday that you're not going to spend any money, though, because we don't have any money.
They had employees that they had to pay those employees. The problem is that they had demand, they had clients, but the money were not coming in fast enough to sustain the business.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's tough.
But this is such a great problem to have, though. Imagine, like, you have demand. Companies want what you're building.
But you don't have the money to produce it.
Yeah, you don't have the money to produce it. Could they change how they make deals, when they get paid? I don't know at that time.
I mean, I don't know how you can negotiate with Boeing and the accounting department of Boeing to say, can you pay me faster?
Or like pay 60%.
Probably it's not that easy.
As a startup, we're now thinking how we can package our offering and when we can get paid or partially paid exactly for this reason.
That's why subscription models are great. They pay in advance.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
But at the time, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
Plus, they were selling hardware, not software.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a subscription model.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how did they manage to scale?
So by 1987, they were making about $250K a month.
Whoa.
Yes, but still, they still had issues because, it was slow.
Yeah.
They were making money, but they were not making money fast enough.
Imagine the next deal they're going to get is going to be a bigger one. So they're going to need to build more routers. But then the money they got from the last deal, it was for a much smaller deal.
And they also didn't came in yet, the money, because I'm waiting for the invoice to be paid.
But when they're coming, it's always for a smaller batch than the one you're going about to create. So you're always behind and not having money.
So Sandy at some point had to get a second job. Mm-hmm. And creditors were chasing them and customers were calling in the middle of the night, angry and looking for their routers.
Okay. I would love to experience this one day.
Oh, no, she says that it was very, very stressful.
Yeah, but the idea of actually building something people really care about and want, and they're calling you because I want it now. Like, so far, whatever I tried to build didn't didn't take off. So I haven't experienced yes, we want your product.
Yeah, but imagine calling you in the middle of the night. We want this. I don't have it yet.
Let me sleep.
Yes. So as the company was starting to get recognition, the university, which would not give permission when they were employees to sell this technology, threatened to sue Len and Sandy.
Okay.
So now they are paying attention.
Whoa.
And
now they remember.
Yes. So the conflict arose because the technology foundation of Cisco's initial product was based on the work Len and Sandy had developed at the university at Stanford. And technically, the IP belonged to the university.
Yeah, actually, the rights belong to the university.
So basically, Stanford claimed that Cisco had used the university's intellectual property without proper authorization. And so they had to solve this issue, which eventually they managed to resolve by agreeing to pay the university $150,000, and they gave stock options to Cisco to Stanford.
Okay. So they managed to get the license. Well, yeah, from the university.
The university never actually sued them. So I guess the university wanted money.
They saw there was a whole pie. And they were like, yeah, we want a piece of that pie.
They could have the whole pie, but they didn't want the whole pie.
No, but they didn't want to be entrepreneurial. They didn't want to see the business. They wanted to keep it all for themselves.
Yeah. And then when there was a business, they wanted a part of it.
Yeah.
So when you have this kind of issues, like Cisco was having, there is an obvious solution, which is venture capital. But Sandy pitched about 60 different investors, and they wouldn't agree to invest. 60.
60. Okay.
The official explanation was that she was given was that the protocol was in the public domain, so anybody could copy them. But what she says is that she thinks there was another reason. Len was, a geek. He couldn't talk, he couldn't pitch. So Sandy was the face of the company. And she would go and she would pitch to these investors that were 60 and 70-year-old men, and they wouldn't get why a woman was running a business.
Classic.
Yes.
Yeah. It can be very frustrating to be honest, this is still, for me, one of my fears when I pitch about the startup or I say what I do, and I know my audience are going to be 50-year-old men. I have this thought, how are they going to give me a chance? Are they going to listen? It's always there. Even today, a very, very small percentage of venture capital funds go to women. So it's I don't know what the exact number is, but maybe it's 5-10% only. But it also depends how many women are going to them for funding, right? But I'm curious about that ratio. I can find the number, but it's a very small number. So at this point in our story, a true legend enters. Don Valentine, founder of Sequoia Capital. Okay. So Sequoia continues to be ahead of all the other VCs in discovering the little gems of startups. So for anybody that doesn't know, Sequoia Capital is one of the 2 original venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. And continues to be one of the biggest ones. Yes, even today. That everybody wants to talk to when they have an idea, yeah. So Don Valentine is the founder of Sequoia Capital. And if you are a Silicon Valley history nerd like me, you know him as this, legendary figure. He's the guy that funds Intel. He's the guy that discovers these 2 young hippies, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And he gets them to Mike Markula. Mike Markula shapes them up, and then he invests in Apple. He's the guy that finds Nolan Bushnell, this, crazy hippie doing punk, and he funds his company, and this company becomes Atari. Is this guy alive? No, he's dead now. Okay. But you, wait, because, he's the knight in the shining armor. I would love to meet him. When the heroes of the story are men, in this story,
he's the villain, unfortunately.
He's the villain. Oh,
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun.
I'm sorry,
Let's see
but-
what he has done.
I'm sorry, but yeah, in most of the stories, he's like this visionary, legendary figure that, invests in the young entrepreneurs, but he wasn't a saint.
But he still is, right? Because he discovered them.
Yeah, okay, fine. He funded Intel, he funded Apple, he funded Atari, he funded NVIDIA.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he was, he knew what, he was doing.
He was loaded.
Oh, very, very loaded. Side note, NVIDIA, because NVIDIA now is the hot company, Jensen Huang, who is the founder of NVIDIA, goes in the 90s to pitch him that he wants to build this company to build graphical processing units. And he goes, he delivers a horrible, horrible pitch. And Don Valentine's go, this was horrible. This was a horrible pitch. But your boss, your ex-boss says you are a clever guy. So I will give you money. But if you lose my money, I will kill you.
Imagine being that founder who hears these investors say this.
And now the company is worth like trillions. It's the biggest company in the world. And actually, Sequoia Capital still owns their stock in NVIDIA.
Oh, wow.
So they made a lot of money.
This guy, if he didn't make NVIDIA what it is today, a couple of months later, he would be like, I've been threatened to lose my life from this psycho from Sequoias. Can I have protection, please?
Yeah, I don't think you could get protection from Don Valentine at the time.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah. So in 1987, Don Valentine decided to invest in Cisco. After recognizing the company's innovative solution to a critical networking problem. Upon visiting Cisco's modus operation, he observed a dedicated team tackling a substantial technical problem. And despite their conventional setup in their living room, he was impressed by their passion and potential impact of the solution. And so he recognized the market and the opportunity, and he decided that Sequoia Capital would invest. And they invested $2.5 million in 1987 for a 30% stake.
How many million?
2.5 million.
Okay.
We are used to billions this year, so it sounds...
Oh, no, but for that time, I think it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, yes.
But because it's hardware, right? They needed the capital. For 30%?
Yes.
Wow, 1/3 of the...
Yeah.
So that's a lot, actually. Did he join the team as a founder? What?
He became the president of the company.
While running Sequoia.
I mean, I guess he was on the board of 1,000 companies at the time, all the companies that he had funded.
As a president, he was not executive.
No.
Okay.
He was the head of the board of the company. Yeah. And the truth is that Sandy Lerner were naive. Don Valentine told them they don't need a lawyer. He will provide a lawyer.
Damn. This guy.
And they were desperate for cash, so they accepted. Plus, if Don Valentine, the guy that, funded Apple and Intel, tells you, trust me, you trust him, which is not wise, but yeah.
I mean, that's also a problem. Like, when you meet somebody who has an authority position and they have a name, like a guy who has invested in very successful companies, and that person tells you, I can provide
everything,
including a legal entity who should be unbiased from both sides and unobjective. If they offer that, and you shouldn't take it, because that person has to be with your side, not with the investor side by any chance. You don't know what deal they have with them. And no matter how successful they are, like, trust is built with time, right?
So because they didn't have their own lawyer, they accepted a 4 years vesting plan. So they will get their shares in 4 years. And for those 4 years, they wouldn't get any salary.
That was the deal?
Yes.
That's odd. Okay, I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, So all the money they got from the investment went straight into
The
hardware?
company. The money went into the company to, manage to produce the product and, grow the company. And actually, Valentine used part of that money to build a sales force to sell the product.
Okay. How did they make money then? How did they pay off their bills?
I'm not sure, actually.
Like I'm looking at my life. I have a startup that doesn't pay enough because obviously we're at the very beginning. So I am also doing the consulting because that pays the bills. And like I have to combine both to be able to survive in this world. Like how can they?
I'm not sure, actually.
Is it their savings?
I don't think they had savings because they mortgaged the house. I really don't know. That's issue. I was listening to an interview and she said, we didn't have a salary. Okay.
So they expensed everything.
Maybe.
Expensing the meals, expensing. I mean, if the office was their house, then they cover the rent in there. They cover the.
Maybe. I don't know.
All the house bills, they put them as office bills. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And Don Valentine insisted on professionalizing Cisco management as a condition of his investment. And he viewed the founders, while brilliant, as more technical than managerial.
Mm-hmm.
Soon after the investment in 1988, Don Valentine hired John Morgit. I think I'm saying the name wrong, but anyway, as CEO to bring operational expertise and prepare Cisco for scaling and an eventual IPO.
All right.
And according to Sandy, the first thing that John said to her was, I hear you are everything that's wrong with Cisco.
Okay, hang on.
He denies it, but I tend to believe her.
Yeah. So when Valentine chose the CEO,
mm-hmm.
the couple didn't have a say?
No, Sandy says that she learned about him when he showed up for work.
How is this possible? Like he had the 30%, so the majority of the shares are still sitting with the couple.
But it's the board that decides, and I guess he controls the board.
So the board can decide fully on who's going to join the team?
Plus their shares needs to vest, and they're not vested yet.
I can see now why he's the villain in this story. Wow.
And as I told you, he also built this workforce.
But as
this sales force, sorry.
But even the board, they want to see the company succeed. Mm-hmm. If they're going to bring somebody, don't they want to see how that new person will interact with the current team and make sure that they're working well together and they like each other?
No.
Or was it like, is it their plan?
This is the 80s version of, bring somebody in to run the company, like parental supervision, like when they brought Eric Schmidt to Google.
And don't care about the rest, like, okay.
Yeah. And I told you that Don Valentine also built this sales force, okay, to sell the product. And this team is something very familiar today. It's, these 20-year-old men that want to work hard and party hard and have drugs and women. It's this very broad culture that we know today. Mm-hmm. And Sandy couldn't stand them, basically.
Okay.
All these salesmen that Valentine brought in.
I mean, the culture changes completely. Every person who joins a company will affect the culture of the company, right?
Yeah.
So imagine if you have a whole sales force joining the company, there has to be a lot of commitment from the founders to distill their culture values. But if, from what I'm understanding, the couple was not...
They didn't have very power anymore.
But even people skills from what I understand, they didn't have the people skills and managerial skills to distill different values in the company. So... if the control sits with the board and they bring everybody.
So basically, Len is a geek. He wants to build technology. So Sandy is trying to run the company, but her values are very different than Don Valentine's. Yeah. So they clash.
Yeah. Wow. Such a sad story.
Yeah. So Cisco Systems went public on February 16, 1990. And Cisco's valuation at the time of its IPO was approximately $224 million.
Which is a very good deal for that time, especially, right?
Yeah, it's a very good value. But there was increasing friction between the founders and the new leadership. And basically, Sandy at the time was accused that she was being stubborn, she was being difficult, and she was being confrontational. And she had a lot of clash with the new CEO.
All right.
Which, sometimes when a man is, assertive, they call him a leader. When a woman does it,
she's confrontational.
Yeah.
That was my first thought.
Yeah, I think that was what's going on here. She was, she was dynamic. She stood her ground, and the men, they didn't,
But
like
even when I hear people saying about someone, they are clashing with this person, and I always think for a clash to exist, you need two people. So if she's clashing, he's also clashing with her. It doesn't mean anything to me if I don't actually know the facts of how they're interacting with each other and how each person fits into the clash that they're having.
Yeah.
Now my managerial hat is coming on. It feels like very accusatory on her with apparently not much evidence to
so
prove
basically
that.
She had a different idea of how to run the company.
Yeah.
And she was trying to get her point across.
Yeah.
Okay. And they didn't like it. So the board eventually viewed her as a liability, and they decided that maybe she needed to go. And by this time, her marriage was also falling apart as a result of the years of stress they had to endure.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's becoming even sadder.
Yeah. So in August 1990, John, the new CEO, went to Sandy and just announced to her that it was time for her to retire. And she was 35 years old. And she tried to protest and, say, no, I have more things to do. And then he told her that basically you are being fired. You don't have an option on this. You don't have a say in this. And at this point, she's not even half vested. She's 2 years in and she needs 2 more to get her shares.
Wow.
And
imagine building your baby. It's your company. And
if somebody comes in and he kicks you out and you don't even have your shares. And it happened so suddenly that they actually escorted her out of the building.
I wish I was there to see the actual interactions between them prior to this day. Because if you're gonna escort somebody out, it sounds like they could be a danger for the company or getting secrets out of the company. And
yeah. So Sandy goes to Len and tells him, I've been fired. And he says to her, no way. You didn't understand something correctly. And she says to him, no, this is what happened. And so although they were, in this process of getting divorced, he gets up and he quits his jobs in protest.
Wow.
So he lives as well with her. And the good thing is that they did manage to get their stocks, because it would look very bad 6 months after the IPO if they did this to the founders.
Mm-hmm.
So they managed to keep their stocks, and they sold them and they got about $170 million.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's not a bad deal, I guess.
Yeah, the thing is that like a few years later, in 1998, the company was valued at over $6 billion. And between the two of them, they had, I think, about 60%. And as of last night, I checked, and the company is worth $232 billion.
Are these people alive?
Who, the Elena and Sandy? Yes, they are.
What a story they have.
They got $170 million. it's not a small amount, but imagine if they had to keep the stock.
Yeah. But I don't know. I guess above one amount, it doesn't make any difference.
Maybe it's true.
Maybe it makes a difference if you want to invest in something that's very costly, like starting something hardware-wise. Like then you need the money. But okay, it's 170 million is not that bad.
Yeah,
but I understand that the difference between millions and billions that they could have had is much bigger. But yeah.
So they leave the company. In 1991, Len founded XKL LLC, a privately funded engineering company based in Washington. And the company develops advanced optical networking equipment.
And he continues to run
He
that.
still has the company. I don't know if he's involved because I think now he's in his 70s. But the company still exists.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And they're not together?
No. But they use some of the money they got to start together a charitable foundation.
That's nice. How about her?
So, as for Sandy, the first thing that she did after leaving Cisco was to start PetNet.
PetNet?
Yes.
I have a pet. Is that related?
Yes, very related.
Oh.
So basically, she says that at the time there were these shelters, and if you will lose your pet, it was very difficult to find where it is. So it was a charitable initiative, and the idea was to build a database where all the pets will be included with picture and relevant details. So if a shelter found you an animal, they could find, based on this database, who the animal belonged to and return it to you.
Oh, that's very cute.
Yeah.
Actually, it's such a nice thing to do after working for many years, building networks of computers. Like you want something more, how do you say, like you can touch it.
Yeah. So she created this project, and she was working on this network and this database to help animals. And also in 1992, through the foundation that she created with her ex-husband, they invested money into the restoration of Chatham House, which was once owned by Jane Austen, brother Edward Austen Knight. And in 2003, it opened as a center for study of early women's writing.
Of what?
It became a library for women's literature.
Wow. All right. I guess that's the good thing about having a lot of money.
Yeah, you can
or a lot of million. You can explore different directions, completely irrelevant, unrelated with each other. That's the freedom you get from it.
So as Sandy was, the years are going by, and Sandy was turning 40. And her aunt, the rich aunt.
The first or the second? The pony aunt or the
pony aunt?
The pony aunt.
Commented that it was time for her to lose the jeans and t-shirt, and maybe it was time to start using makeup.
So okay, hang on. So the aunt, who at that time possibly she was what, 70?
Maybe, probably.
Minimum 70 years old, turns to the 40-year-old Sandy and tells her, okay, quit wearing trousers. It's time to put makeup on.
Yeah.
Was the aunt experiencing midlife crisis for Sandy?
I don't know. Anyway, Sandy wasn't going to stop, wearing jeans and t-shirt, but she thought, okay, maybe I can use some makeup.
Was it her way to say, maybe you should find someone and get married again? Don't stay single.
Maybe, although she didn't need a husband, I guess.
Yeah, but at that time, she would. It was still the idea that you need to have a husband.
But
right?
It was the 90s, I guess.
It was still. I mean, I think we're still fighting with this notion
that you need a husband.
Now.
Yes, yeah.
In the 90s, it was still a thing. Eh?
So Sandy goes to the department store, and it was all pink. It was these little, very girly things that you could find. And she was like, she was punk. She wasn't girly. So
emo,
I guess came later.
Yeah, that's true.
She was the 70s kid, hippies kind of person. And so this was the inspiration for the second company that she founded. She created a company called Urban Decay in 1995.
Urban Decay.
Decay.
Decay. Okay.
And this time she had the money to fund the company and she wasn't going to get, outside investors. And the main idea was to challenge the beauty industry's limited color palette, which predominantly featured pinks, reds, and beige. And the initial product line, launched in January 1996, included 10 lipsticks and 12 nail polishes with edgy names like Roach, Smoke, Rush, Oil Slick, and Acid Rain. It was like this, blue, electric blues, like greens, but not the green that, like the military green.
So she was the one
Yes.
who began this trend.
And purples and, this kind of not girly color at all.
Wow. I admire her even more now. Like imagine you first begin with building a network, like the first router that connects computers. Like you're the one driving that for the first time in the whole world. And then you're like, okay, we got tired of that. Now it's time for what else? Makeup. Cosmetics. Like, wow.
And they made their products with top-of-the-line ingredients and there was no animal testing.
From that time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the brand quickly gained attention and basically they managed to get into Nordstrom. It's what's it called? It's like department stores and brand of department stores, high-end department stores.
As you can see, I'm clueless of these things. All right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know either. Just reading them. And Urban Decay's tagline was, "Does pink make you puke?"
Oh.
Yes.
Does pink make you puke? So that was their tagline.
Yeah. This is like rebellious and,
That's clever.
Go against the norms of, the pink and the beauty industry.
Yeah.
And basically, she runs the company for a few years, but because there is nothing to patent, people keep, copying her colors. So in February 2000, she sold the company to Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton.
All right. That's a good exit.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
I don't know how much money she made, but she says that I made money.
Yeah.
So we don't know the amount, but...
I mean, if you compare it with when she made a deal where she wouldn't get any salary, I mean, this is a great deal now, right? Yeah.
So...
What is she doing now?
Yes. Eventually, she decided to return to her roots. She lives in Virginia, where she owns Ashire Farm, a 16-acre estate in Upperville. And the farm focuses on sustainable farming. And she raises cattle and pigs and chicken and turkeys.
Oh, that's so cool. She went back to her roots, having a pony.
Yes.
And now she has a pony and a bunch of other animals.
Yes, she has a whole farm.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a full circle.
Yes. And she still has a charitable foundation with her ex-husband. And she's also a published writer. So she published a sequel to Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And she's also created a book called Caticons, a book inspired art by cats.
Like, oh, I need to read that.
Yes.
Now I have a cat. I need to read everything about cats. So I should look it up. But imagine, she was so multi-passionate woman trying in all directions to create these different ventures. Like, I love her story with the sad moments. But I think it was nice. It was a good exit to leave from Cisco, even if it's like losing your first business child.
Yeah.
But look at what happened later. Like she funded cosmetics, a new line in cosmetics with an amazing tagline. And then now she has her own farm.
Yeah.
With pony and all these other animals.
So when we are 70, we can, also own ponies.
This is the dream, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've heard this so many times from developers. When I, in my previous jobs as an engineering manager, I had teams of developers. Half of them, their dream was to leave tech and go live in the mountains.
Where there is no internet connection.
There is no, well, yes, where there is no internet connection, like live in a cave, have a farm, be with animals, be in nature. I think we techies realize that happiness is not between cables. It's actually being in the nature.
I say that, and then Michalis says, no, you wouldn't last.
We should go and try it.
That was our story for today.
Oh, I love the story. Thank you for sharing this story with me. I've learned a lot about Sandy. Sandy Lerner.
Yes.
I learned until the end.
Mm-hmm. So before we close the episode, we want to thank Chrysanthi and Sofia that will do the editing for us. Tasos Konstantinou that does the graphic. Konstantinos Psilidis that does the coordination. Andreas Philachtou, who is the producer of the show. And also Black Lemon that hosts us here. And yes, that's...
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for listening until now.
Yes. Also, please go on social media, share the episode, rate us on Spotify, on Apple. Yes.
And tell us if you like us together and if we should continue. I mean, we're going to continue, but do tell us if you liked it.
Even if they don't like it.
If you don't like it, do tell us. We
will still do this.
We will still do it. Sorry.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you, Elena. Bye.